Welcome to Manna at the Tap, a podcast from Tapestry Ministries. Each episode reflects on a daily Bible reading from the Revised Common Lectionary. I'm Gloria, a fellow traveler on a spiritual journey with the Tapestry community. We call the daily Bible reading our spiritual manna. It nourishes our souls, fostering spiritual growth as we share insights and interpretations that enrich our spiritual lives. The lecture reading for Wednesday, February the 12th, 2025, is from the Gospel of Luke. Luke was a Gentile believer and a physician who loved to travel and hear the stories from those who knew Jesus. In one of our earlier podcasts, Luke shared how Jesus called his first disciples the brothers Peter, Andrew, James, and John. Today, the lectionary reading features the story of how Jesus called a man named Levi to be his disciple. This account is found in Luke chapter 5, verses 27 to 32. Jesus had been teaching the crowds that followed him, and he was performing miracles for everyone who came to see him. The people were amazed by the miracles, and they praised God, except for the Pharisees, who were the religious leaders of that era. They responded to Jesus's actions, questioning his authenticity and speculating on his intentions. After a morning of teaching and performing miracles, Jesus took a lunch break. As he walked by a Roman tax booth, he noticed a man named Levi working there collecting taxes. Now, Luke doesn't share the details of the conversation between the two men, but it concluded with Jesus saying to Levi, "Come along with me and be one of my disciples." Levi got up, walked away from the tax booth, and followed Jesus. Now, let's take a moment to understand Levi's role as a tax collector. Jews were employed by the Romans who occupied their homeland to collect taxes from the people on a commission basis. They would add their fees onto the taxes they gathered for the Romans in order to earn their commission. The people despised tax collectors, viewing them as traitors who grew wealthy by exploiting their own people. They believed that tax collectors facilitated the Roman occupation of the country and the oppression of the people. Tax collectors were affluent and well educated, particularly skilled in adding numbers and calculating their commission on the people's taxes. Jesus and Levi were hungry, so Levi invited Jesus to a large dinner at his home. The other guests included tax collectors and individuals of questionable reputation. When the Pharisees and the religious leaders heard that Jesus was having lunch and where he was having lunch, they were offended and asked Jesus' disciples, "Why is he eating and drinking with sinners?" When Jesus heard what the religious leaders said about him going to dinner at Levi's house, he responded, "Who needs a doctor? Is it the healthy or the sick?" Jesus said he came for those who recognized they were sick, poor, and lost. He was inviting outsiders, not insiders, to experience a transformed life, both internally and externally. He wasn't interested in those who viewed themselves being at the top. Rather, he sought to help those who were struggling at the bottom. Jesus reached out to those who perceived themselves as in need of assistance from a loving God. That day, Levi experienced a profound shift in his life. He recognized that he needed to alter his lifestyle. The Pharisees and the religious leaders had excluded individuals like him from the synagogue due to their role as Roman tax collectors. He was not permitted to have any religious or social interactions with fellow Jews. But Levi recognized that day he was a sinner in need of a Savior. Thankfully, Jesus passed by Levi's tax collector's booth on his way to lunch. He stopped by and invited Levi to enter into a relationship with someone who truly loved him. And for the first time in his life, Levi felt loved that day. He felt loved by Jesus, who was on his way to lunch. Levi was prepared to leave everything behind. He returned home, inviting Jesus to have lunch with him.